Hello YouTube, Parlor, and Facebook. Here is part 3, or video 3, whichever you want to call it. And this one is going to be another P word, and this one is protesting. So right after this, I'll be right with you and we'll get into video 3. Well, hello there, YouTube, Parlor, and Facebook. This is part 3 of my video. Part 3. So the first video we did was politics. Second video was the pandemic, and the third one here that we're doing is protesting. And all of this stuff began on Memorial Day weekend. It started out with something that should have never happened. That was the murder of George Floyd. And for the first 24 hours, everybody in the country was in harmony. Everybody agreed that that was wrong and it should never have happened. And I guess BLM and Antifa did not want that to happen, because within 24 hours they got involved, and then they tried to divide the country. And it did work to a certain point, unfortunately, because I personally think that it took away from what actually happened, and that was George Floyd, his murder. Now, don't get me wrong, I am all for peaceful protesting. Have your signs, go out and chant. But some of the stuff that was being chanted just was not cool. Pigs are like bacon. Pigs are something. It was pigs are like bacon, fry them like bacon, or something. I don't know. It was something like that. I mean, stupid things like that. And no justice, no peace. I mean, those are kind of threatening. People could yell like George Floyd's name or something like that. But unfortunately, it didn't stay that way. It started getting really bad to where there was a lot of protesting, and then the protesting turned to rioting and looting. Now, what does George Floyd's murder have to do with looting a Gucci or a Best Buy or anything like that, or burning down Wendy's? Any of those has nothing to do with the death of George Floyd. That's just plain greed and stupidity. That's just not only my opinion, but probably quite a few people's opinions. It has nothing to do with it at all. And that lasted quite some time. And like I said in my earlier video, one of them, maybe both, that all 4 of the subjects that I'm doing, well, at least these 3 kind of intertwine with each other. There's politics involved. There's the pandemic in some ways was involved. And so, I mean, it's just crazy. Now, with all the protesting going on and the rioting and looting, I sat back and thought about it, and I thought, wow, I think we just found the cure for the pandemic. Because when all of that was going on, oh, and by the way, we're not going to call the fake news anymore. We're going to call them fake media. Because to put the word news in their title is like putting an elevator in an outhouse. It just does not belong. So, CNN doesn't stand for Cable News Network. It stands for, cable nothing, cable network of nothingness or whatever. Just don't put the word news in, because while all this protesting was going on, not the protest, especially the rioting and the looting, all the fake media refused to cover the rioting and looting and the deaths that evolved out of all of that, and the elderly people or anybody, getting beat up, and or worse. They refused to cover all of the rioting and looting. Now, I was watching Fox News one night, because I do like watching Sean Hannity, and this was like, maybe late fall or something like that, when all this stuff was still going on, it might have been early fall or something like that. And they were showing stuff live, and Sean Hannity was sitting there, and I guess it was kind of funny the way he said it, but of course, obviously the act was not funny. But somebody was coming out of an electronics store, and Sean Hannity goes, "Oh wow, looky there, Merry Christmas! Yeah, they just got a brand new, washer. They were hauling out washers. They actually I saw one guy in a wheelchair, and he had all kinds of alcohol on his lap, and he was wheeling away with it." Now, you tell me what any of that has to do with the murder of George Floyd. That's just greed. And, and that's the idea of Antifa and Black Lives Matter, is it divides. They're all for division. They're also all for defunding the police and all kinds of crazy culture stuff. Like there was a lot of statues that were starting to be pulled down because they were supposedly racist or whatever, until our president got involved, because he tried to get these Democrat-run states say, hey, just let me bring in the National Guard, we'll stop it, so your cities will be safer. Would they let them? No, they wouldn't hear of it. So, they just kept going. And all these small businesses that were being looted and burned were already affected by the pandemic. See how I say they all kind of entwine with each other? With all the Democrats' crazy lockdowns and shutdowns, and all this other stuff, stay-at-home stuff. And all of this nonsense, like I said, the protesting is one thing. Rioting and looting and all that, there's just no excuse for that. I have nothing positive to say about that whatsoever. So if you're looking for me to do something like that, you're going to be waiting for quite a while. But eventually, Donald Trump was really getting some momentum, because, he was talking about he would never stand for defunding the police. He would never allow things to be changed, like they were wanting name changes of military bases because they were racist. They were wanting statues of Abraham Lincoln tore down, because somehow, I don't know how, but Abraham Lincoln was racist too, even though he was the one that helped free the slaves. But these people just don't know history, or they want to change history. For example, like Abraham Lincoln and George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, they want to erase all of that. They want to make their own history that suits them. But see, what they don't realize is that if you erase history, then you're bound to relive it again. So, just saying, you got to learn by your mistakes and go on. But Abraham Lincoln, he tried to free the slaves. George Washington, he's the father of this country's father, the first president. And they want to erase all of that. In this business of white people need to get on their knees and say that they're sorry for their ancestors being, having slaves or whatever. Well, I'm not going to do that because I wasn't around. I had no control. And there's only one person I'll get on my knees for, and it sure as the heck isn't Black Lives Matter. And that's our mighty Lord and Master. That's it. Our mighty God. There's nobody else I will get on my knees for. Well, unless I actually propose to somebody to get married or something like that, I would consider doing that. But that's just the way I feel. And, now they're trying to infiltrate schools. Trying to, the woke, they're calling it, I think, the woke movement or something. I don't know. It's just all crazy. This has been a banner year for everything, I'll tell you. But what happened was all this fake media, like CNN, they were doing this live video, and he was this idiotic reporter, if you want to call him that, was out there, and he said, all these people out here are just doing a mostly peaceful protest. Now, I don't know if they forgot their backdrop or what, but like in the background there were buildings on fire and there were people looting, and it's like, this guy's a dork. So, with all that being said, it carried on for quite a while, and then when Joe Biden got the nod to run for president, and the defund the police wasn't working for them because, Trump was saying, hey, and he had all these police officers backing him. And they realized it's like, hey, this isn't working for us anymore. So all of a sudden, the rioting and looting stopped. Of course, the tearing down statues stopped because, our president, Donald Trump, put into law that if anybody gets caught tearing down statues, 10 years in prison automatically. So, buddy, that stopped. So then, they tried to do it other ways. But as soon as the fake media realized that this stuff wasn't working for them anymore, and, and Joe Biden, the Democrats realized that it wasn't working for them anymore, then all of a sudden they started addressing it. Like, oh, this protesting, the rioting isn't helping the Democrats any. And, it's not helping Joe any, or Kamala, or whatever, it's not helping them. And all of a sudden it stopped. And they were, trying to, they were a little late to the show, as the old saying goes. They just, I don't know, it's all ridiculous, and that's why I call them fake media. I don't even call them news, because none of the fake ones give the news. They just, it's either bash Trump or whatever. But as soon as they, started calming back down, then the pandemic picked up again. And, we went through all that on the last video, so we don't need to hit all that again. But now you don't really hear that much about Antifa and Black Lives Matter anymore, even though it did infiltrate the sports. And that's why I don't watch sports anymore. I never have been a big basketball fan. But I'm not going to watch sports where they can, they have Black Lives Matter. Now they got their own national anthem because the other one is racist. Mount Everest is racist. All this crazy stuff. But, it's starting to back off a little bit. And then, of course, when the presidency, and the funny thing is, a lot of them said, oh, it's Trump supporters. That is the biggest line of crap I've ever heard, because during the Republican National Convention, when Donald Trump gave his acceptance speech, about running again, during the RNC, Republican National Convention, there was a bunch of Black Lives Matter protesters out front, and they accosted a lot of the Trump supporters. And so why would Donald Trump have them attack his own supporters? They just don't think. They just open their mouth and let whatever comes out come out. I know it's kind of harsh, but that's the truth. And to me, all this nonsense has nothing to do with George Floyd. So, they just use that as a way to, you know, get things going and start things, which is a shame because, like I said, what happened to George Floyd should have never happened. And yes, there are some bad cops, but there's a hell of a lot more good cops than there are bad cops. So, you know, defund the police, that's just crazy. Nope, no need for it. But then the funny thing is the same people that want to defund the police, when they start getting their house, you know, protested in front of, like, late at night, who do they call? The police. Now, if I worked for the police department and I was in one of those cities and they call one of these do-nothing Democrat people were to call me up and say, hey, they're here protesting, you know, come get them out of here, they're keeping me awake, I'd say, go out and do it your own damn self. I ain't doing shit for you. That's just me. That's why the police morale is really low when there's a lot of people leaving the police department. I mean, growing up, I had an uncle who was police chief. Yes, I lived in a little Mayberry town, you know, it was a small town, but it was still, he was still the police chief. He would come take me for rides in his car once in a while when I was a kid, you know, and I mean, I have always had respect for the police. And here's a question, and then we're going to end this video. You know, the reason some people get shot is because they either struggle or they run. When a cop tells you to stop, that doesn't mean run like a bat out of hell. When a cop tells you to put down your weapon, that doesn't mean keep marching toward them with that weapon. If they put it down, then all these shootings wouldn't have happened in the first place, or at least most of them wouldn't have. Just food for thought. Alright, well, that's all this video I'm going to make. So, the next one, the fourth one, will be coming up shortly. And then I will be done with this year in review, this 2020 year in review. So, alright, I will see you on the flip side. I'll be right back. And just as a reminder, I would like to thank our boys and our men and women in blue. I'd also like to thank the first responders for all that they have done this year, for keeping us stocked up, even though during some of our, well, I don't want to say ours because I wasn't part of it, but some of the craziness that was going on, like the toilet paper apocalypse, and, you know, and the police protecting us whenever we really do need it, and the frontline workers, you know, being there to take care of our sick and our wounded and and the people with the virus. So thank you to all of you. You are very much appreciated in this house and in many others too. Keep up the good work. We got your back. Okay, if you like this video, please hit that like button down here in the corner where it says you like the video, so I can keep track of how many people like it and how many people don't. I just, you know, I'm trying to get a lot of subscribers. Then leave a comment if you want. Please keep it respectful, because I'm trying to run a nice channel here for the most part. So leave a comment and see where it says subscribe. If you like what you see, hit subscribe, because I do all kinds of videos. I do some political, some rants once in a while when something gets under my skin. I do a lot of kitchen gadgets, video games, you know, just all kinds of videos. So it's a smorgasbord, something for almost everybody, I would think. And then bash that notification bell right there, so that if you do subscribe to my channel and you want to be notified whenever I do more, hit that notification bell and you'll be notified immediately whenever I do a new video. And of course, don't forget to share it. Share my video on Parler, on Facebook. You know, copy the link, send it as a text message to somebody. Do whatever you got to do. whatever you want, however you want to share it, but please share my videos. I'm trying to get the word out. All right, everybody. Happy New Year's. Peace.
Today, is 57 degrees. Tonight, more clouds covered with a low of 30.